2012's The Amazing Spider-Man saw the web crawler himself go up against Dr. Kurt Connors' The Lizard, as well as an appearance by the cousin to the Man in the Yellow Hat. It was time for a sequel, so what do we get in 2014, The Amazing Spider-Man 2? We gotta raise the stakes, we gotta take it up a notch. Let's bring in Electro. That's not a bad thing. But wait, hold on. We gotta bring in Rhino. Because bigger is better. We gotta do that. Paul Giamatti, yeah, he's not no big fat liar anymore. You know what this sequel needs? The Green Goblin. What's William Dafoe doing?
Mr. Mark Webster, I think William Dafoe's busy. He says he's contracted to something else.
Okay, then bring me new Goblin.
Mr. James Franco is also busy, sir.
I can't think of a funny way to bring up Dane DeHaan. He's the Goblin in the movie. This is what it is. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Heads Project. I'm John Hortolaza, and today we're continuing on the road to Spider-Man No Way Home. We're going to be talking about all the Spider-Man films. I've already covered the Sam Raimi, Toby Mcguire Spider-Man trilogy. Now we're in the midst of the Mark Webb-directed, Andrew Garfield starring Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man films. Go check out my review I did of The Amazing Spider-Man 1 from 2012. Today we're talking about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This one I feel like a lot of people butt heads on because I've heard people say that they think it's slightly better than the 2012 Spider-Man, and a lot of people think that this is just a step down, and I can see both sides. We do have a lot of things going on in this movie that work for it and work against it, so let's talk about them. The first movie had the Lizard as the antagonist. This movie has 3, and that was just a little too much. Technically, it kind of has 2. Paul Giamatti as Rhino is kind of just like the introductory villain that gets taken care of pretty quickly and then shows back up at the very end for the very last shot that, by the way, was in the trailer. So I hate when movies do that, dude. Imagine if they showed Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter kissing in the trailer to Endgame. Like, that's how that movie ends. So I wouldn't really count Paul Giamatti, but he is marketed all over the place for this movie. Like, the Rhino suit and everything is everywhere, on the poster, on the wallpapers, whatever you can think of, he's there more than he's in the actual movie. Jamie Foxx plays the antagonist of this film as Electro, and I thought he did a good job. I haven't seen a lot of his films, maybe just a handful. I really do like Django Unchained. It's probably one of my favorite films of his, but then again, I've only seen a few. But I think he did a great job with what he was given. This character, before he became Electro, was very quirky and just kind of nervous and an outcast all by himself, creating birthday cards for himself to create this illusion that he's got this big birthday party planned. It's very silly. I don't remember if I mentioned the character of Cheetah from Wonder Woman 1984 reminding me of Electro in this film. They're very similar. Their story in both of the films play out very similarly. They look up to the hero, Wonder Woman and Spider-Man, and ultimately their hero becomes the reason for their downfall. And it's a good story. It can be played very well, but I feel like if you miss a step telling that story, it could come across a bit lazy, and that's kind of what I feel like happened here. I feel like they rushed into Electro's story and kind of just turned him into villain from quirky Max to evil Electro within minutes. It wasn't like that, but it felt that way, and I don't know, I feel like the movie already had way too much going on for it, and already had so much planned for the second and third act that it kind of had to rush through Electro's introduction, which makes me think I don't need to see all of the villains' origin stories within the first act of all these superhero films. You can just introduce a movie with the character already being who he's supposed to be by the end of the movie. Joker in The Dark Knight was already the Joker in the beginning of the movie. We got set up to who he is in that one big old bank heist. I feel like a lot of these movies do waste time setting up things that they could just easily breeze over. The Spider-Man Homecoming film that we're going to be reviewing in a few weeks, or next week actually, that doesn't really recap all of Peter Parker's Spider-Man origin stuff. Like, we've seen that twice in other films, so Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios had that foresight to not tread that same water, not tell that same story. I would say the same can be said for Dane DeHaan's Green Goblin. Look, I haven't seen a whole lot of him. I've seen Chronicle. That's it. He's done another film around that time, and I remember seeing trailers for it. I don't know the name. But all I know is Chronicle, Amazing Spider-Man 2, like Chronicle, I did not like Dane DeHaan whatsoever in this movie in any capacity. He's a good actor, don't get me wrong, but he just doesn't fit this character. It just doesn't. And that haircut, dude. It's like someone cut a perfect acute angle-shaped hair piece of cake out of his head. It's like, why is it so perfect in the angle? It's so weird. All right, I'm just picking on the hair, but seriously, it was just kind of weird to me. When we are introduced to Harry Osborne, played by Dane DeHaan, we're also introduced to the first on-screen scene of Norman Osborn of the Mark Webb films. We did see like a little picture hologram of him in the first Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and we didn't get to explore more of Osborn and that whole side of Spider-Man lore. So we get introduced to two new characters in the first 15 minutes, and then we're told to care about them immensely because they're both gonna die. It was just way too much. Like, dude, slow down. I'm not gonna accuse them from not having a plan or anything, but I feel like they should have introduced Harry Osborn into the first film. He shouldn't have to be this big, prominent role, but he could have served some sort of purpose. Maybe Peter just goes to chill with him after he loses his uncle or something, and we build that relationship a little bit more because it's really hard to believe. Look, Andrew Garfield and Dane DeHaan are great actors. I'm not saying that they're not, but they don't make me believe that they're best friends and that they know each other for years and that they have each other's back and they care about each other. It just doesn't hit me as much as freaking, obviously, James Franco and Toby Mcguire. Like, I felt that, dude, and we got that throughout all three films, through hardships, especially when he lost his father and he has this vendetta against Spider-Man. You feel that, but he's also very loyal to his friend Pete because they grew up together. You don't feel that in this movie. They have one scene together, they're walking in the park, talking about girls, and then that's it. Dude, the freaking man in the black hat, the cousin of the man in the yellow hat, is more of a villain than Rhino is in this movie. So he serves a little bit more of a purpose than the post-credit scene of the first film. And by that, I mean he's actually in the end of the movie. He pops up to tell Green Goblin, or Dane DeHaan, as now he's in the prison because he got defeated. He wants to set up the Sinister Six or something like that. He doesn't say it outright, but they're teasing it. They've been teasing it for a while. Norman had this virus inside him that's genetic, and he was developing all sorts of projects and programs that were animal-based. And that was the silliest thing to me. Like, what? So that links to when Peter in the first film got bit by the spider at Oscorp. It was bit by the spider that was part of the spider program that they had going on, trying to create all sorts of formulas and antidotes and whatever they were doing over there. They had a Spider-Man program and they have a Goblin program. And then they had probably an octopus one because they had the octopus arms for friggin' Doc Ock. And they probably had a bird one too because they had the vulture wings and something to do with rhinos because there was a horn, the big metal horn. Like, that was so silly. I bought into that maybe a little bit for the spiders. Not really the goblins because goblins aren't real. That just screams to me that they're trying to ground the hell out of the Spider-Man universe and that they're trying to give everything scientifical explanations, you know? That was just so funny to me and so silly. They're trying to say there's different animal programs. Andrew Garfield is great in the movie, as he was in the first one. He plays a little bit less of the cool kid because, well, they graduated in the beginning of the film. He's no longer the high schooler, so we don't get to see bad boy Pete anymore. And we get to see a little bit more of that lighthearted Peter Parker Spider-Man that we got in that one scene where he's taking out the car thief or whatever. I loved it. I loved seeing a more upbeat Peter Parker and Spider-Man throughout the whole film. There were some dark moments in the film, not gonna lie, but for the most part, it's kind of the inverse. We got a little bit of lighthearted, funny, jokey Peter in that first film, and this one, they kind of embrace it a little more. They don't go too much to where it's comical and it comes across like a Guardians of the Galaxy or anything like that, and that's not bad. I'm just saying that, you know, that'd be going a little too much if it was just him making jokes for the sake of jokes because we got to make the audience laugh. I'd have a little bit of an issue with that. It was just really cool to see that deviation from what we got in Sam Raimi's films. He's more stoic in there. He comes across as this Superman-esque character, but he's Spider-Man. And here they go back to him still being kind of a kid. He's very young, like he's supposed to be 18, 19. And I buy into it. I also buy into Gwen Stacy, played by Emma Stone, again in this film. She's really good. And her relationship with Peter in this film is just amplified from that first one. It feels so organic, and I like their chemistry together. It's mainly the interactions that the two have, their conversations, and how they're communicating with one another. It feels organic, and it just feels real. Like you would stumble with someone that you probably have a crush on and probably just don't know how to form words around. Visual effects, not the strongest. Like I wasn't looking for that type of crap when I was 14 watching The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in theaters. I just saw 3 villains. I saw Spider-Man, cool new suit. By the way, this is like my favorite suit, probably. I kind of like it more than Toby Mcguire's suit. I said it. But the visual effects do stand out quite a bit in kind of a negative way. There's quite a bit of shots of Electro that he just looks so artificial. He looks so PS3. It's just not good, man. There's a lot of other great things in this movie too. Like there's a lot of CGI is done right. But, you know, you're gonna have some wonkiness. You have an entire CGI-built character of Electro, just all blue. Action is great. You can't have a Spider-Man movie without dope action, and I do buy into it. With the exception of the certain, you know, bad CGI and whatnot, like, there's still very fun action to be had in the movie. Alright, I guess we can talk about the scene. Maybe I'll tear up or something. The Gwen Stacy death scene. Yeah, she gets dropped by Goblin, and Peter rushes down, falling down the clock tower to try to catch her, but just so much debris, you can't see her. He manages to get that web, and it goes in slow motion. It shows like the web expanding in like a little tiny hand, it looks like. That was kind of cool. I like that. And then it finally latches onto her, but then boom, she gets hit with whiplash, I guess, on the concrete and is dead. Yeah, it's sad, and it definitely did get me when I was that age, for sure. Yeah, when I first saw it the first couple times, yeah, it got me, but it doesn't stick with me. That emotion just doesn't stick with me, and I don't know why. Perhaps it's because maybe this is the second film and we haven't seen much of them, but you can argue that I liked the relationship. I bought into it. I liked seeing Gwen and Peter together. Something about Harry and Peter's end in Spider-Man 3 is as impactful as it was years ago to this day. Like when I just rewatched it to do the review a few weeks ago, I felt that emotion. Maybe it's because there's so much by that point in the movie that doesn't sit well. Like the whole Goblin thing that really feels shoehorned in. The disease that was killing Harry, he injected something into his blood. I think it was Spider-Man's blood or something like that. So he crossed the programs and then he becomes this mutated thing. And then as he's transforming a little bit, he doesn't go like full on Goblin or anything, but as he's enduring this pain, he's crawling down this hallway with flickering lights, and he gets into this suit, this mechanized suit, almost instantaneously. In the end, I feel like this movie and this story was asking the audience to care about things that it knew going into it were going to raise some questions and some issues and concerns about potential sequels. With all that being said, I feel like a movie to this caliber can be pulled off. Hell, the MCU has existed for 13 years. They've been pulling it off numerous times since then. With multiple villains and multiple heroes in the same 2-hour flick, it can be done. But you need to understand how to pace that film, how to introduce characters that weren't in a previous installment, and how to bring them from point A to point B without making it seem jarring or asking the audience for too much. The biggest takeaways of this film is that dope Spider-Man suit and the dope score that did change from the first film, but I kind of like this one a little bit more. It's just so heroic, dude. They're both very heroic Spider-Man themes, and I love them both. They really do fit Andrew Garfield's depiction of the web crawler. That is going to be it for my review for The Amazing Spider-Man 2 from 2014. Let me know down below, have you ever seen it, and what did you think about the film? Do you agree with some of my points? Let me know down below. Comment your thoughts on the film, and which your favorite out of the two, The Amazing Spider-Man from 2012 or the sequel from 2014? And who's your favorite villain from this universe? Spider-Verse? You like the Lizard, Jamie Foxx's Electro, Dane Dehoblin? Let me know down below. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new, guys. Be sure to check out my other Spider-Man movie reviews. I already did the Sam Raimi films. I did the Amazing Spider-Man 1 from 2012. And of course, this one, we're going to be moving right into Tom Holland's Spider-Man films, Homecoming, Far From Home, all in the lead up to Spider-Man No Way Home. So there's a lot of content coming to the channel. You might want to stick around, guys, because there is more to come.